Ina mana, ina roa, e ro rangatira mā tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. E te mana whenua, te Aotearoa, taranaki whānui o te whanganui a Tara. Tēnā koutou, Nate, ngā mihi nui mō te mihi whakatau. To everyone else, a very warm welcome and thank you so much for giving us your time today and joining with us in this celebration. It's a celebration of the work of the Aotearoa Circle and its partners in the last year, but I'm hoping also we can frame the start of today as a celebration in some of the progress that we are making. And the context in which I am about to present is one of some green shoots of progress. So today is an important day not only for the Aotearoa Circle but also for the Ministry for the Environment, Te Manatu mō te Taiao, and Stats New Zealand. And together we regularly produce reports on the state of New Zealand's taiao, or the state of New Zealand's environment, and every 3 years we produce a synthesis report. That's the front cover of a document that was released at 8:30 this morning. It numbers in well over 100 pages. There is a lot of detail in there. But on your seats you will have seen this accompanying document, which we call our companion document, which is a snapshot summary of what sits in the larger report. And it also tells some stories, some case studies of how we relate the science, the data, the evidence that we see in our environment to what we are doing. And it's a celebration, if you like, of some of the great works being undertaken within industry and within our communities that are making a difference. So this report which we produce with Stats New Zealand is what we call a Tier 1 statistic, our set of statistics. So these have the same place in legislation as things like unemployment, GDP. They are official statistics and therefore you can rely upon them as having gone through a robust process to ensure that they are sound. And in the world that we're living in at the moment, putting facts in the way of prejudices couldn't be more important. So this is a statutory requirement for us as agencies, but it's a really important part of Aotearoa New Zealand's overall management framework for the way we think about and we look after our environment. This report gathers together all of the work that we've done in the last 3 years across a range of different environmental domains, air, land, water, and so on, and brings it together in an overall synthesis. And what the report shows in its totality, if we step back and look at where we're at as a nation, is a real mixed bag. There are some things that will be familiar to you in terms of some of our indicators continuing to decline, things going in the wrong direction. But we also see in the data some things that are going in the right direction. We see some areas where things are improving, and we see the consequences of the choices and actions that individuals, households and businesses are taking that are resulting in reduced pressure on our environment and in some cases some restoration. And so that's the overarching message that we have hoped to give the nation today and that we wish to convey to you today as well. And that is one of hope and of optimism, that we need not think as all is lost when it comes to the state of our environment. There are things that we are doing that are making a difference, and we can and must do more. So I'll just rattle through some of the highlights of the report, and I have mentioned, of course, that there are some things that are improving, so I'll start with the good news. The first of which was quite striking in the report to see, is that while our total urban area between 1996 and 2018 grew by 15%, our population as a nation grew by 31% during that same period. Now what that represents, and it's not a one-for-one relationship because of course some of the population growth will be in rural areas, but by and large most of that growth is occurring in our urban environments. 84% of New Zealanders live in urban places, and what we see is densification occurring. Now that means that people are living more closely together in more compact housing, more apartments, etc. And when we think about the impact of our urban environments on highly productive land, what we're seeing is that our urban sprawl as a country is reducing. So our past practice of growing our cities outwards with quarter-acre sections is ending, and we are now building our cities upwards. And that's important because of the efficiency of our housing, our infrastructure, our transport, and making our cities more efficient and functional. Now, alongside that, our greenhouse gas emissions are reducing. They peaked in 2006 and remained pretty static to 2019. But since then, we've had a 7% decrease, and they are decreasing year on year. Some of that is related to land use change. Some of that, so taking our livestock out of landscapes and therefore not the methane and nitrous oxide emissions. But also we see reducing emissions from transport, energy, and from industry. So while we've still got a long way to go to reach net zero as a country, we've very much turned the corner. And when you think about the fact that our economy has grown, our population has grown during that period, we have now decoupled our population and economic growth from our emissions, and our emissions is going down. Also pleasing to see that our tendency in recent years to ever increase our waste as a nation, and we are high per capita in waste relative to OECD benchmarks, has turned a corner as well. And since 2018, we've now seen an 11% reduction per capita in our waste. Our coastal and estuarine monitoring is showing that across all of the sites that are monitored, we have more sites where improvements are taking place. That's in suspended solids, so that's sediment, E. coli, and nitrogen and phosphorus too. So across all of those contaminants that come off our land, we're seeing in our coastal and estuarine environments reductions taking place in more places than they are increasing. And I think that's testament to the good work in communities, from riparian planting to wastewater upgrades, dealing with stormwater overflows, etc. And so we're seeing some real improvement. Our air quality is also a great success story. Nitrous oxide is decreasing, and we have an improving picture at 99 of 114 in our monitored sites. Carbon monoxide, which I think we all know is not good for human beings, has been reduced by 47%. And our particulate matter that's so problematic for heart disease, lung disease, etc., is decreasing, and we have improvements in 3/4 of the sites that we monitor, largely through the elimination of coal and wood burning and the introduction of more heat pumps. Now, while we've got that positive story, there are certainly some things that are still cause for concern. We do see in our groundwater the prevalence of E. coli growing, so E. coli in our landscapes is turning up in our groundwater. As I think is known to all New Zealanders, our biodiversity, our endemic biodiversity continues to be threatened, particularly for our reptiles and for our bird species. Although even with our indigenous terrestrial bird species, we see a mixed bag. 22% of those are decreasing in their populations, but 21% are increasing. We've got our plant species, that many of which are threatened, and we also have severe challenges with our frogs, who are an incredibly sensitive species. We have a problem as a nation with pest plants, and the most spectacular of those would have to be our wilding conifers. We have 2 million hectares now across the landscape with wilding conifers, and that's growing by 90,000 hectares per annum. It is estimated that that could cover 25% of our land area in 30 years without management, but acknowledging that there is management taking place. And of course, the climate is warming. We do know that the average temperature since the Industrial Revolution in New Zealand between 1909 and 2022 has increased by 1.26 degrees. And our hottest years on record have been overrepresented in the last decade, and we continue to break records in terms of warming. That's playing out in terms of sea level rise, and we have an average increase of 21 centimetres over the last century or so, but also an accelerating trend in terms of sea level rise. And our glacier coverage has decreased by 35% since 1978, and similarly is continuing to accelerate. When we look at the data and we start looking ahead, there are some things to watch for. We are seeing microplastics turning up in more and more places, pervasively across soils, rivers, in our ocean environment, and in our biology. The impact of these microplastics on people and ecosystems is not fully understood. We also, while we've got that really positive picture I spoke of in terms of increasing densification occurring and more efficiency in our urban development, we are seeing in some places reductions in green space, parks and reserves not keeping up with that growth. And I think that's something to watch for a country such as ours. We have seen some useful work by the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment recently, which has highlighted the role of green space in cooling our cities and providing habitat and biodiversity among our buildings and our infrastructure. And while I mentioned before that we are also seeing that E. coli turning up in groundwater, we're also seeing nitrate nitrogen concentrations increasing. Now, it's a mixed picture again that is increasing in some places and decreasing in others. But certainly our groundwater is telling a story of past choices, past land use, and much of the nitrogen that is turning up in our groundwater has origins years or decades before. Soil erosion is another issue for us to closely watch, which is canvassed in the report. New Zealand has very high rates of natural erosion due to our topography and our geology. And we have about 5% of our land area that's classified as at severe risk of erosion. But what we see with climate change and the experience of Cyclone Gabrielle and the silt and sediment that you saw surrounding homes and orchards in places like Hawke's Bay demonstrates that severe weather accelerates and mobilises the sediment and the soils in our landscapes. Our soils are precious and they are generally finite. They take thousands of years to build, and as we lose our soils, we lose our productivity and our natural capital. And the final thing to watch is our exposure as a nation to flooding in our coastal areas. We have developed our towns and cities at river mouths, on floodplains and on the coastal margins. That has brought great benefit to New Zealand, but it has also put an awful lot of infrastructure and homes in harm's way. We have 750,000 New Zealanders and 500,000 buildings worth more than $145 billion that are already exposed to extreme flooding. And the Auckland anniversary flooding event, Cyclone Gabrielle again, brought those home. We have been experiencing a major flood event about every 8 months in Aotearoa, New Zealand over the last few years. And so as we think forward as a country, we've got some big decisions to make and some choices around how we continue to grow and how we protect our homes and cities. So having read all of the report and encourage you to do so, there are some key takeaways which I think are particularly pertinent to this audience. What it demonstrates is the choices that we make in our businesses in particular have an influence on our environment, and we have always changed and modified our environment to provide for our economy, our need for food, for fibre, for housing, but we also face choices about how we go about that. And some of the choices we're making today are improving on some of the past practice. So we've got choices that can be either positive or negative. It's not a question of whether to grow and develop or not. It's more of a question of how we grow and develop. There is cause for optimism in terms of some of the restoration that is occurring. We are seeing many of the trends turning around, and so the work that we are doing across the circle, the work undertaken by many of our partners in their own businesses, is part of a story of restoration and turning the ship around. And that's one that should be inspiring to all New Zealanders, and I think it provides the basis for giving people a sense of hope and also assuring them that what the small things they might do in their lives and their communities do add up to meaningful change. Business has a critical role in this. Business is usually at the interface between our environment and our economy, and it is there where the leadership of business is so important. And that's why I'm so proud to be part of the Aotearoa Circle and to see the increasing number of active partners we have, and of course our leading partners growing as well. That really speaks to New Zealand businesses stepping up and providing the leadership alongside the public sector that New Zealand needs. And the final thing I just want to leave you with is that the data is what guides us. The strength, the power of this environmental reporting is that it can tell stories, but it can tell stories that are factual, and it can also show us when we're on the right course. This data that we have released today points to a promising future if we just keep going and we keep building on the momentum that we've got, and the data will keep telling that story for us.